Buy my book, The Colorful Conscience, now available on Amazon.com and BarnesandNoble.com for $13 and on Lulu.com for $9.75. Click the buttons on the video or the links in the description below. Hey guys, Ragnarok Revived here, bringing you my Metal Gear Solid 5 The Phantom Pain review. And boy, is this an amazing game. It's such a great addition to the series. I'm going to address my main thoughts about the game first, and then something really big that bothers me at the very end, which is probably going to be a different video. It's going to be a different segment of this whole thing. But what I wanted to talk about was, at first, like, the game is just so... First of all, this is my favorite game of all time. Period. End of story. It's done. My old favorite game of all time was Metal Gear Solid 2, for reasons including the storyline and the gameplay was just so phenomenal at the time. It made such leaps and bounds from Metal Gear Solid, the original. And now Metal Gear Solid 5 has surpassed even that. Obviously, the games just keep getting better, but I mean, in terms of the expansion that we see from one game to another, like how much has the game grown, this game has far surpassed any expectations I had, and it's just the best game I've ever played. It's so fun to just go into free roam and sneak around and, you know, just like take over a base and stuff like that. And it's only going to get better because the online is coming out in October. So once that drops, it's over. This is going to be my most played game ever. So what makes it a good game? You know, it's a lot of things. And so let me talk about the storyline first. Actually, I'll save that for last because it ties into the other topic that I have. But the gameplay, first of all, let me talk about the AI and stuff. The AI for this game, I thought as technology increased, the AI would get better, but there's just some things you can't do. Like, the AI in Dragon Age Inquisition sucks. Dragon Age Inquisition is an amazing game, but the AI is just really dumb. It's just, like, the AI doesn't know what to do most of the time, and sometimes the characters will just freeze. Now, this happens in Metal Gear, but not nearly as frequently. In fact, it happens way less frequently than I expected it to do. In Metal Gear Solid 5, the game is so expansive, and it seems like the game itself is really smart. Like, the enemies, not only are they more aware and they're more likely to spot you than other games because they're just a lot smarter, and I suspect they made it that way. They made the enemies more difficult because A, there's not a difficulty setting in this game, and B, there's more space for you to sneak around in. But the enemies are more aware, but the game is also so much more aware. The game is so much smarter, and it's so contextual. A lot of things are just really contextual, and the game can tell what you want to do. Like, you can point at someone in your binoculars, tell Quiet to point at that guy and shoot him down, just like in Metal Gear Solid 2, except you can do it all the time, instead of just that one sequence. Your buddies can find you no matter where you are. You can tell your buddy to go sick someone, and they'll do it, and it's just amazing how smart the game is and how balanced it is in terms of different things. So in one aspect, it's balanced because the more you play the game, depending on the way you play, the enemies will respond in kind. So if I'm always getting headshots on people, the enemies are going to start wearing helmets. And what's cool about it is that depending on where you shoot the enemy, you can still get past that. So if you shoot them directly in the face, it'll be a headshot. But if you shoot them in the head, it'll hit the helmet and bounce off. Shoot them with a strong enough gun, you can knock the helmet off your head. The game is just so dynamic. There are so many layers to it. And it really makes you think about every possible strategy you can have. The game is not just open world in the sense that the world is a lot bigger, but it's open world in the sense that there's so much more detail to every possible action. Like, you can throw smoke grenades and cause something to happen. You can use a water gun to destroy electronic equipment. It's really weird, and it's really fun and cool and extensive the way that they put so much detail into this game. And all that said, they put all this detail in, and it's not very glitchy. Metal Gear games have been the least glitchy games I've ever played in my life, with the exception of probably Metal Gear Solid 1, because it's the original one. It was on the PlayStation. Every PlayStation game gets glitchy as fuck, but every Metal Gear game is the least glitchy game that I've ever played in my life. And yeah, you can break the game if you really want to, but the game just consistently runs so smoothly. It's very rare to see something that's just eye-poppingly broken or glitchy that happens. I've uploaded maybe 1 or 2 glitches that I've seen, namely the skulls glitch during the boss fight, but then that eventually fixed itself. But that was a weird glitch. It was an AI glitch that happened during a boss fight, but it's rare. It's few and far between. It's very rare to find it. Whereas you have other games that come out, especially nowadays with the way that games work, and especially under umbrella company like Konami, you would expect the game to get released completely glitchy and like unfinished, but it's not, and it functions so well, and they put a lot of attention to detail into it. They definitely focus tested and quality assured it, and other ways that the game is balanced. So everything is run on GMP. Now you get GMP as you progress through the game, as you do missions and side-ups and so on, but you need GMP to do everything. You can't deploy on a mission without GMP. If you go into negative GMP, it makes your soldiers work under bad work conditions, and it makes them want to leave Mother Base. But if you get a lot of GMP, you can do a lot of different stuff. You can develop equipment, blah, blah, blah. And it's not like other games where, even in Metal Gear Solid 4, you just had so many dropping points you didn't know what to do with. In Metal Gear Solid 5, you get GMP, and you feel like you have a lot, and then all of a sudden it's gone. And it's a good thing, because it makes you need more. The game is very balanced in this aspect. Everything makes you need more of something. You want to get this weapon, you need to level up your base, therefore you need more soldiers. If you want to level up your base, you need to make more space for your base, therefore you need more fuel and other resources. You need those resources, you need to upgrade your Fulton thing so you can collect those resources, so you need more GMP. It's all very balanced and very nice, but the one thing that I have to say that ruins that are the damn microtransactions. Now, this isn't egregious. Don't get me wrong, this is not egregious, and I'm not just saying that as a fanboy defending the game. It's really not egregious at all. I checked out the PlayStation Store, the microtransactions. Basically, you buy these things called Mother Base points, and what they do is they can speed up development time, and you can also use it to buy forward operating bases. Now, the whole forward operating base thing is that once you get to a certain point in the game, you can infiltrate other people's bases online, and they can infiltrate yours. I've had my base infiltrated, and I've infiltrated 2 other bases. And the game automatically defends itself. Like, your base automatically defends itself, but you can buy, you can use your in-game currency, the GMP, to upgrade this base and to make it stronger and more formidable in case someone does infiltrate it. It costs a lot of GMP to do that, but that's all in-game. The issue is the Mother Base points. Now, in order to create forward operating bases, you need Mother Base points. For some reason, you can't just use GMP for this, and that's really frustrating to me. Yeah, it's just an online mode, so it doesn't matter actually to the game itself. It's just a fun extra mode, and it's not even really connected to Metal Gear Online, because that's coming later. But if I can do everything in the game, if the game balances itself out so much, why do I need to get these extra Mother Base points just to make a forward operating base? And it is kind of pertinent, because in order to level up your bases to certain levels, sometimes you need a lot more space. Constructing a forward operating base gives you that much more space in order to have more soldiers and level up farther, or level up further. But if you don't have the mother base points, you can't keep constructing forward operating bases, meaning you won't level up as much because you don't have as much space for soldiers. Now, it doesn't directly affect the game, but it is annoying. It's an issue, and I'd rather just be able to use GMP to get mother base points, or to just use my GMP to create more forward operating bases. And you get your first forward operating base for free, but to construct a new one after that costs something like 1,000 coins or something like that. I'm like, what the heck? And the prices on the PSN store, they weren't way out there, but I really don't want to spend money for some nonsense like that. So yeah, all that said, the game is mostly, literally except for the mother base points and the forward operating bases, it keeps itself totally balanced, and it's a very incredibly balanced and very smart game. All the buddies, there are only about maybe 4 buddies in total, I believe, and each of them have a distinct characteristic that would make you want to choose one over the other. Now, the horse, you can use the horse to get far places in short amount of times, and you can also be stealthy while you're on the horse, so it makes it more useful than a car, for instance. The dog can spot enemies and other things without them having to be on your screen, so you don't even have to look at enemies to know where they are. Quiet can also like scout and spot enemies, but then she can also take them out with sniper rifle bullets. She's not as good at spotting enemies as the dog is, but she can take them out with a sniper rifle from a long distance and use herself as a decoy. And the D-Walker is a freaking robot, man. It's a mecha. As you should be seeing in this video that I have in the background, I'm fighting Sahelanthropus with the D-Walker on extreme mode, which is basically a later mission that you get after you finish the game, or after you finish chapter 1 of the storyline, and it's more difficult missions. But it's not just more difficult in the sense that the enemies do more damage. It's more difficult in the sense that the circumstances are harder, and that's what I've always loved about Metal Gear. When they do higher difficulty settings, yeah, sure, the enemies do more damage, but it's also the higher difficulty means that the enemies are smarter and the game is harder in terms of the circumstances, not just in terms of the enemies do absurd amounts of damage and kill you one hit. That's what separated Metal Gear, that always separated Metal Gear from games like Final Fantasy, not Final Fantasy, but because Final Fantasy doesn't have difficulty settings, but Kingdom Hearts, for instance, and other games that I can't even think of off the top of my head that do have difficulty settings. They basically just make the enemies more they just make the enemies stronger, and that's not difficulty. That's just nonsensical at a certain point. What you really need is stronger enemies and more difficult circumstances. What else is there? Yeah, the game is just incredibly fun in terms of the gameplay. The gameplay itself is just the best gameplay of any Metal Gear game ever, and definitely the best stealth gameplay of any stealth game I've ever played. And to be fair, I don't play a lot of like Tom Clancy and Splinter Cell and all that. I think it's the same thing. I tried playing Thief and that sucked, but I think that's a general consensus. Assassin's Creed isn't my kind of stealth. Uncharted 2 had stealth in it and it wasn't the same thing. A lot of games will have quote-unquote stealth in it, but it's not really stealth. Like even Assassin's Creed, Metal Gear takes stealth to another level where you can actually be a lot more strategic about things, and it's not just about hiding in a haystack and then pulling enemies in as they close by on you. It's a lot more nuanced. And sometimes, especially in this game, Metal Gear Solid 5, you have to decide, maybe I can trigger an alert and it doesn't matter. Maybe I can be seen by the enemy and still accomplish the mission. And it just makes things a lot more nuanced and three-dimensional. That's what the best thing about this game is, that it's so three-dimensional.